Joining me again, our guest, Danish lawmaker Nasser Khader, Islamic scholar Tariq Ramadan, and the former Dutch MP Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Now, you were busy nodding your head frantically, saying that you got all heated up. I mean, Tariq Ramadan is saying that Islam is part of Europe now. It is a European religion. Get used to it. Some people will want to wear their religious symbols, just like nuns wear habits. What's wrong with that?
Islam is not a European religion. There are Muslims in Europe, and they bring Islam to Europe. Islam is a set of beliefs, it's a set of values, and what we are seeing in Europe is that there is conflict between the values of Europe and the values of Islam. And those Muslims who choose to adapt to the values of Europe will become Europeans, and they will be able to believe and to practice the religious dimension of their religion.
I guess my question is...
But they will not be able, and I think they're going to run into problems if they try to bring political Islam into Europe, and that's what we're seeing. We are having a discussion...
About political Islam.
About the political dimension of Islam. Islam has a political dimension, it has a social dimension, for instance, women's position. It also has a religious dimension. We are not having a discussion about praying 5 times a day, fasting the Ramadan, etc. But we are having a discussion about basic human values that Europeans have resolved and Muslims have not.
Okay, Tariq Ramadan, Europeans have resolved basic human and democratic values and Muslims have not. And would you buy the idea that, in fact, a lot of these women in France are doing it as a political gesture and as a sort of identity, a national identity?
It has nothing to do with this. Look, what we have now, and this has to be also, you know, we have a conservative MP from Denmark, and we have someone who is speaking about Islam saying, in order to be European, you have to be less Muslim because Islam has in itself a political dimension. So I think that we are not listening to what the Muslims, the European Muslims and the American Muslims are saying. I think that Hirsi Ali should listen to what the President Barack Obama was saying when he was talking to the Muslims and to the Muslim majority countries. He was also saying to the Americans, look, Islam is an American religion, and now we have to rely on facts and figures. We have millions of European Muslims who are abiding by the law, speaking the language of the country, and they are now loyal to their country, and they are doing this as an act of faith. It's not for Ayaan Hirsi Ali, even though she was a Muslim. It doesn't mean that because you were a Muslim, you are open-minded.
Mr. Ramadan,
you were a Muslim,
Mr.
maybe,
Ramadan,
and some others. The
Mr.
point
Ramadan,
is
we are
that
having,
you have Muslims
no,
today
Mr. Ramadan,
who are abiding by the law, and
we
I am a
European. We are having Muslims.
European.
I'm sorry. We are having Muslims who are stuffing explosives into their underwear and who are taking flights to kill innocent people.
But that's got nothing to do with the veil, Hirsi.
It doesn't have anything to do
with the veil.
Who is speaking
about killing
but
innocent people?
It has to do with
reading
the Quran,
people?
Participating in jihad, which is a major concept in Islam, and who say it is my religion, it's my God who tells me to kill innocent people. It's my God who makes me impose.
We are saying exactly
so that
the
women
opposite.
Can,
I'm sorry.
You are not saying exactly the opposite. You are an Islamist in the closet.
We are sorry.
You are saying you want to tranquilize everyone into believing that Islam is a religion of peace, and come out and say, as the numbers increase. I do not like your argument. I'm very suspicious of your argument when you say it's only a small minority of people, when you know in places like Iran, in Egypt, in Algeria, that it all started out with a small group, with a number of minority, and that increased. And in democracies, numbers matter. Demography matters.
Ayaan, she's made a very strong point. Tariq, listen, she's made a very strong point, and she's basically echoing what André Gérin said in a way, that this veil is the visible part of an iceberg, and behind that is a black tide of fundamentalism. So obviously people like Ayaan and the people like the French government believe that this is the beginning of some kind of tidal wave.
It's an empirics. It's not just a belief.
But hold on a second.
It is the beginning. Iran, in 1970s, there were only about 10 people who were wearing the veil.
Go ahead. Would you let him respond, Ayaan? Go ahead. Go ahead, Tariq.
I'm sorry, it's impossible to speak. It's impossible to speak to someone who has a dogmatic mind, and the problem is Islam per se. So let me finish, please. What we have today is a new visibility of Muslims, and that's true. Let us really look at facts and figures. We have a tiny minority of women who are wearing the niqab and the burqa, and we have some extremist views that we have to condemn by saying it's wrong to kill innocent people, it's wrong to impose anything in the name of Islam. And what is said by the great majority of the Muslims around the world and in Europe as well as in the States is that it has to be a free choice. We cannot impose even the headscarf. The women should be autonomous and free and no violence. And killing innocent people as it was done in the States or anywhere else in Muslim majority countries, this is not acceptable. So the point is now, let me come to what Geraint is saying. Geraint is saying the visible presence of the Muslims. There is a problem. Let me finish. There is, yes, a problem with the new visibility because the people are perceiving this new visibility as a new colonization. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. It's that
Mr.
the Muslims are now Europeans.
And look at the ban. Immigrants, Muslim immigrants to Europe choose to come to Europe.
Ayanishi Ali was supporting.
They're not being colonized. They came. I came to Europe. You came to Europe. You were not forced to come.
Tariq, hold on 1 second. Tariq, can you hold on 1 second? Hold on, sir. Hold on. No, hold on a second. You will get your chance in 1 minute. Hold on. I want to read some statistics because there's obviously a lot of sort of stereotyping going on. Look, 90% of Muslims in Belgium feel very strong sense of local belonging. 78% of Muslims in England feel a sense of belonging to Britain. 49% of Muslims in France feel a sense of belonging, and 23% who feel German. Let me go to Nasser Khadr for the last word. Why is such a lot of hysteria when the facts speak to mostly integrated Muslims? Why do politicians and elements of the media focus so hard on the few people who maybe want to wear the niqab or the veil or whatever it is? Nasser.
You know, the discussion about niqab and burqa is just a little part of the discussion of political Islam. As I started saying that the majority of the Muslims in Western Europe and in Denmark are well integrated and loyal citizens. A recent survey in Denmark told us that the majority of the Muslims in Denmark are an integral part of the labor force. Many of them are becoming a part of the Danish middle class. But we have a minority that live in ghettos, in parallel societies. Physically, they are living in Denmark, in the West, but mentally they are living in the Middle East.
Right.
And that's the problem. The small groups are making the problem for the majority.
All right. Now, we have to finish this conversation on TV, but we have a webcast, and we're going to continue this online. So if you would stand by, we will have that after this broadcast. But for now, for more on Muslims in Europe, go to amanpour.com, where we have an interview with a French Muslim woman who says that a ban on the burqa would isolate her from French society. That's another view. Next, our postscript. A fascinating look at the intersection of Islam and Christianity in one family in Britain. We'll be right back.